Exactly.
So
No, so yeah, we'll edit all this out. So don't worry. Like this is
No worries
just
at all.
we'll make it sound nice.
this is not what makes me nervous. What makes me nervous is the Instagram comments where other flight instructors who are similar to me from different flight schools across the globe who are picking up my tiny mistakes. And obviously I have made a few mistakes on those really viral live videos. And so, like, for example, I just went live today. So we had a seminar here in Dubai, right? So my wife was sitting and there were like 8 random students who showed up for a regular aviation seminar. And I told her to just go live for the first 5 minutes on my Instagram. And I finished a 4-hour seminar, and then I pick up my phone and my wife was live for 30 minutes. And I freaked out. And I went and reviewed it and I was like questioning myself if this is actually correct. Like, I know what I'm telling them is correct, but then because I have this massive audience on Instagram and I've been constantly being bothered by people trying to like, oh, that's not the right way of explaining this concept. And then these days I get a lot of these people who comment or they message or send audio message to me on Instagram saying, you are not following the fundamentals of instruction, you are not so there's something called as FOIs, right? So when we become flight instructors and pilot instructors, they teach us a bunch of rules and regulations about how you can and how you cannot teach. And I don't necessarily follow all of the FOIs, the fundamentals of instruction. I just wing it most of the time. And sometimes I go with the flow, right? And some instructors get really, old school instructors. Oh, that's not the way. I believe I'm trying to make it fun. These instructors don't want to make it fun. They continue to keep it old school, right? So I understand where they're coming from. They're actually following the FOI book. But that's what makes me nervous these days.
I mean, hearing all this, I feel like I should just give you this advice. As long as it's not endangering people's lives, it's fine. Yeah. Because when you're on Instagram, this is not the real world. And remember, Rachel, Emery told us, you don't have to be an expert. This is where you go to learn, So I think it's good to have like a disclaimer out there somewhere saying, don't go by this. Come to my formal classes where if you want to get a formal training.
And also what I don't understand is Instagram is like, how could you? Well, first of all, the topic you're commenting about is technically a 2-week chapter. I'm talking about that chapter in a 1-minute summary.
Yeah.
Right? It's a 1-minute Instagram reel. You can't take what I've tried to summarize in 60 seconds and be like, oh, that's not the right way of explaining it. If you're inside my classroom for 2 weeks, obviously that chapter goes with the right flow. And in a 1-minute video, I'm just trying to make it fun.
Are you really going by all the comments and responding to them?
I think, that's the problem, right? I don't know
if that's even healthy to do it. I don't think that's healthy to do.
I do agree with that. So what I'm doing is, initially I was all like, oh, maybe they'll feel happy when they see me replying to their comments. So I would literally stay up till 11 in the night. I would come home at 7 p.m. from work and I would just stay up and reply to each and every comment. I get around 200 to 300 messages right now on Instagram every day, and I'm trying my best to reply to each and every one of them. Then the last few days I'm just like, I can't get sick.
I think you've reached that level of stardom right now on Instagram. You don't really need to respond to every message. You can there's a heart there, you can just click that. That's enough.
Yeah, but the thing is, because I started off in October and I told myself, I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to make sure I reply to each and every one of them. So I'm still trying my best. I don't want to completely stop, but I do as many as possible every day.
What does Rachel think about that?
Yeah,
I just think that's exhausting. Honestly, for me, like I think some people really like social media and they like engaging with people in that format, like online. I don't think I've ever really liked that. It's like, I don't know if both of you grew up with this thing called MSN or AOL, like these online chats, right? Where you chat with your friends. I never even liked that. And everyone my age at that time loved to like talk to their friends. I don't know. There's something about talking online that just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, if I got like nasty comments on my Instagram posts, I think it would just like really upset me. So that's why I'm just like, I don't know, like kudos to you for being able to like handle criticism constantly, especially when you're just trying to do what you love and what you do best. And it's like, it's still not enough. Yeah. Like it definitely, I would say, affects you mentally. So
it does.
It's challenging.
What it has done right now is, even when I'm like today I was doing a seminar from 12 in the afternoon to 4 p.m. Dubai time, and this is probably I've done a million of these, like literally every month, 2 or 3 of these on Sundays. And today, because I knew tomorrow was live, I was just trying to think before I speak. I'm constantly trying to be careful about what I'm about to say. But that's not my style. I'm normally just going with the flow. That's what makes my videos fun. And what I'm now scared is that if I now start actually being very careful about what I'm about to talk, the videos might not be so much, they might not be the same. They might not be fun anymore.
Like authentic.
So I'm stuck between the dilemma. Yeah.
You want to be yourself online. That's the whole point, right? It's like you want to be real.
Exactly,
and now it's like because there's trolls, it's like, how do you be real?
I mean, for example, the 3 reels which really went viral and are now sitting at around close to 2 million views. There are 3 reels, right? So if you look at those 3 reels, I never thought. In fact, when I look at them today, I'm like, what am I saying? I never thought they were good content. The kind of reels which I put a lot of efforts in, I put a lot of effort into making it, they're still at 50,000 views. And the ones which I thought were just random, they're the ones who actually go 800,000, 400,000 views and so on. So also what happens is, okay, let's forget about the negativity, right? So let's talk about the positive stuff as well. I do get 80% positive comments. Students do reply and comment saying, oh, we're being inspired by your videos. I want to know more about aviation. We love the way you teach. So definitely there's 80% of those, but there's definitely some hate speech as well. I got those, the standard.
I think you should just learn to block it now at this point. That's it.
But in the beginning, though, I want to talk about this because in the beginning, right, the first week of October, all of a sudden I start seeing all these hate comments like, literally, Mr. Terrorist, when do you get your 72 virgins? Oh, are you going to take the plane right into the building? I'm literally nothing new, nothing creative. And I'm like, wow, just the typical standard statements, right? So I was a bit disturbed in the first few weeks of October when all of that started happening. I was getting like 10, 15 comments a day. Then my wife and a couple of my friends were like, forget about those 10, 15 horrible comments. Why are you not looking at those 80 to 90 good comments you're getting every day? So I think it's a struggle, right? So
it's a struggle.
The negative comments get to you more than the positive comments.
You have to train yourself, honestly. Yeah, because I think Instagram, you should just take it as first, grow your audience. Second, also a place to practice. Think of it as just practicing your speech and don't get better every day. Keep that in mind. That's all.
Then what I started doing was just deleting those comments. Every time I would see those comments, I would just delete it because I don't want that to be on my platform. It doesn't look good. So I keep deleting. But I'm not sure if I've stopped checking. I haven't seen a lot of those hate comments in the last few weeks. So I guess I've reached a point of saturation. Or maybe those type of people have already unfollowed me. So whatever it is,
I hope our podcast is going to help you get more positive views now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
absolutely.
For sure.
Okay. So shall we begin?
Yeah, I think let's dive into the questions. So Shamsiya, do you want to kick it off? And we'll give you a formal intro. I know we've kind of already started the show, but let's give the audience a formal intro, a little bit about you. So Shamsiya, kick it off.
Yeah. So, welcome everyone. So today our special guest is a very special guest. Why? Because he's either going to end up helping us imagine a vacation by the end of it or helping us learn how to fly. He is a trained airline pilot, but currently he does better. He teaches people and students to learn how to fly. He's very successful. He's an instructor, admissions and selections manager, as well as a licensee manager for the multinational flight school Airways Aviation, which has the largest fleet in Europe with branches in Australia as well. Operating out of Dubai, he has good experience with aviation around the world and has taught and recruited more than 300 students in his career. He's a public figure now and he's a budding social media star, and he gets like around average 200 million views for the reels that he's making, and he's super excited, very enthusiastic, and who knows, an entrepreneur in the making. So let's welcome Rizwan Taj to Fairly Decoded.
Thank you so much, Shamsiya. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor. I have watched all of your videos and podcasts over the last few months, and definitely this is quite a unique show, I should say. It's not something you've heard of. And I wish you guys all the best. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you. We could probably use some tips for our social media because it sounds like you have really cracked the code and learned how to deal with the trolls.
Honestly speaking, there is no secret. It's just sometimes you get lucky. And I think my recent Instagram, the followers and all those views exploding, I sometimes feel like I haven't done anything new in the last 3 to 4 months. It was the exact same thing for the last 1.5 years. My wife, Tamara, would jump into my classroom and just sit in the back, make a few videos, and she would post consistently. And we haven't done anything new over the last 1.5 years. But just, it's those, all of a sudden, one Instagram reel gets viral, and then all of a sudden you see followers started, pretty much started pouring in every day. So I don't think so.
I'm yet to see that.
What I'm doing. I'll be honest with you, I had reached a point, I think this was summer of 2022, where I was like, Tamara, let's just close this Instagram. And, I was giving up. I've been doing this for more than a year and I don't see any significant increase in followers. But then, boom. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is don't give up. If you've been doing consistently something on Instagram takes a while to find your niche. But when it does, you just need one reel to go viral and it reaches 100,000 views and more, and then boom, then it's just a avalanche effect, right? So just overwhelming.
So I know personally that's the code that you've cracked. Like Tamara, your social media managerial specialist, she's your wife. So I think it quite helps to have someone of that caliber and specialty around you all the time, right?
That definitely helps, I would say. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because she was the brains behind it. It was her vision. She executed most of the videos and she was managing it pretty much. So I think that was definitely.
That's pretty cool. So you are like a duo.
Yeah, a team. Team in life and in business. I love that.
Perfect.
It's great when there's crossover.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, Perfect. She's definitely been the woman behind the success. And thanks to Tamara for the instant Instagram success I've had in the last few months.
That's amazing. But I know it's not always been easy for you, Rizwan. I mean, we've talked about it before. Why don't you tell us, the audience, how non-linear your career has been and what all experiences you've had from India to the States, then Dubai, and what all have you done in between? Tell us.
Sure. So let's start all the way back from when I was a little child. And I think growing up, every little kid wants to be a pilot or astronaut, or you just say stuff like that, right? You don't actually believe you'll actually do it, but you just say it, right? So I don't think so. I was crazy passionate about being a pilot. I wasn't crazy passionate about aviation as such, but I do remember my aunts and my brother and my sister, they tell me that, when you were a little kid, you would say, I want to be a pilot, but I don't remember it. So I think it's just something you say. Then growing up, I wanted to be a computer engineer or aeronautical engineer. And then all of a sudden one day, I think not many people know about this. The reason why I ended up deciding to be a pilot is quite crazy, right? So after my 12th grade, I'm in Bangalore, India. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. And I was like, no way. I'm not into biology, right? So he was a bit disappointed. But anyways, a few years later, obviously, looking for universities after my 12th grade, and we happened to go to the outskirts of Bangalore, and I still remember this place. There was this academy which used to do aircraft maintenance and engineering, and they had nothing to do with pilot training. And my father took me there, and it was my birthday. It was the 4th of June 2008. I had just turned 18, and it was my birthday, and then my father's giving me a tour of the facility and walking around this aeronautical engineering, and they had these massive jet engines opened up, and I was quite excited. I was like, wow, this is nice. And in the middle of the tour, the most bizarre thing happens, right? Out of nowhere, the professor, or I don't know, the admission representative, the one who was giving us the tour of the facility, looks at me and says, hey, you look tall and handsome, why don't you be a pilot? Literally, I'm quoting exactly what he said. And I look at him saying, wow, and something triggered, right? The minute he said that. And my question obviously is, do you offer pilot training here? And he's like, no. And I'm like, why would you bring it up? I mean, you're the admissions person for a aircraft maintenance engineering academy. You're talking about me joining pilot training and something you don't even offer. So that was just a quick 10-second conversation, but that stayed in my mind for a while, and I was like, this has to be a sign. And I remember I had a very quiet, I obviously, I'm not the quiet person at all, right? So that just made me calm down. And the whole time my father's driving and we're going back home, and the whole time he's like, all right, so we're gonna come tomorrow, we're gonna bring the deposit, we're gonna submit the papers tomorrow. I think we can afford this academy, this is perfect, it fits all our requirements. And I'm just like, and I'm very quiet. I reach home and my mom's like, how was the institute? And I'm like, Mom, I want to be a pilot. And my mom's like, do they offer pilot training? Then I said, no. She's like, what do you mean? I have no idea, but I always wanted to be a pilot. And literally 2 months later, I'm sitting in a plane just about to start my pilot training. And this was the most bizarre thing ever. I'm telling you, when I think about it, I have no memory of how quickly things worked. My friends, everybody they were all shocked. Like, what do you mean? Like, you were about to join the aeronautical engineering. What do you mean by you're going to do pilot training? I go online, check for some academies. I just literally registered at the first academy which showed up on Google online. And then I started the visa process. And literally 2 weeks later, I was in the US Embassy in Chennai, city down south. And then literally a few weeks later, I'm in Florida. And I'm standing next to an aircraft about to start my training. And it was such a crazy feeling, It was a very surreal experience, and just that's when I realized, oh my God, where am I? It all happened so quickly that I could not even reflect upon what I was doing. And this is, I think, October of 2008. I'm sitting in an aircraft and I'm at the controls, and I think that's the day when I came back and I was almost in tears. I was calling my mom and dad like, what am I doing? And so yeah, it was a crazy journey, I would say. And then I completed my pilot training in the US. I also did my flight instructor course. I stayed in the US doing a couple of, odd jobs, and then I finally came back because I couldn't stay in the US anymore, my visa. And that's when things really, I had a lot of fun, the best time of my life doing the training, young aspiring pilot, flying every day with instructors. I think those were the best 2 years of my life. But then reality hits you, right? You can't find a job in the US, you're unable to stay back, visa restrictions, blah, blah, blah. My brother calls me, says, come back to Abu Dhabi. My brother was living in Abu Dhabi back then. This is 2010 now. And he's like, come back. I'm going to hook you up with some of my friends in the aviation. And I came back, I'm going to join an aviation company in Abu Dhabi. And I had big dreams, right? And I think until that point, I didn't realize how life can actually throw a curveball. And I think you know exactly what happened, Shamsiya. I landed in Abu Dhabi. I couldn't get an aviation job. I kept looking. And the only job I could grab was in my brother's friend's tire shop. So I was in a situation where I just couldn't leave. I couldn't go back to India. I couldn't go back to the US. I was pretty much stuck. And I was hoping I'll get something in the UAE. So I happily accepted the job at my brother's friend's tire service center. Yeah, and then I was hired as the tire shop manager. But then again, it's not really a lot of stuff for the manager. You're not just going to take the cash, put it in, make the invoices. The owner of the shop he was a task manager, right? So he was taskmaster, sorry? Is that taskmaster or task manager?
Taskmaster. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, he was tough to work for. So say that in a nice.
He was yes, tough. He actually trained me a lot. He was very tough. So he would be like, do this, do that. Or, he would go install the tires, and he would allocate assignments like a technician. I would be installing batteries, I would be installing tires, and especially when there were way too many people, way too many cars at the service center, I would be jacking the cars on the streets. And Abu Dhabi summer, hot, boiling, everything's just so hot. And that's when I started realizing, what am I doing? I'm a pilot. Like I would pull out my wallet and I'm like, I have my pilot license right here. What am I doing? So I think that's when I really went through a difficult time. It took me a while to digest that information, because I think growing up, I'm sure a lot of people across the globe, especially in the North American continent, it's quite normal for someone to have a job at a restaurant, work at McDonald's, work as a cashier, or work at a gas station. I think this is quite normal, and it's all right. I mean, it's respectable. But I think I came from a background where I came from a culture and family where this was looked down upon, and my cousins and my family would be like, "What are you doing?" I think to add salt to your injuries, right? You always have a few people around you. It's like, "Oh, what happened? We told you should have done this. Oh, you should have never tried to become a pilot." So I think those start, really pricking you. And I think I really had 2.5 amazing years in Florida doing training, and the next 2.5 years in Abu Dhabi working for the tire shop. And those 2.5 years felt like an eternity,
Mm-hmm.
I would look for aviation jobs. It took a toll on me.
So wait, how did you get out of the tire shop? Because obviously where you are is somewhere completely different than that. So what happened? What was the catalyst to finally get you out of there and doing what you clearly love so much? I mean, clearly you were meant to do this, you knew from a young age.
The reason why I want to talk about this is because, especially when you're stuck in a horrible situation, you can do everything, you can do anything and everything out there, but if it's not meant for you, or if it's not the right time, you're not going to be able to get out of it, and you have to have patience, and you have to believe in the system. There's a bigger cause why this is happening. And I tried a lot. I would go to every single aviation company and apply, and just nothing would work. And one fine day I remember, I think it's very important for me to discuss how I kept myself from going insane. Right? There have been times where I was losing my mind at the tire shop, and that's when one of my friends in Abu Dhabi introduced me to the amazing world of SKMC Hospital in Abu Dhabi. So this massive hospital, not even a hospital, it was Sheikh Khalifa Medical City. It was a massive establishment, and they accepted volunteers back then in 2010, 2011. I think it was more like 2012, sorry. So what happened was I went and registered as a volunteer, and I would just go knocking on every door at the hospital, and we used to go to the long-term department. Patients would be there for years and years, and they didn't have a lot of people who come and visit them. So I think more than me helping the patients cheer them up, I think they cheered me. I literally went there hoping that I'm doing something to help them out, but it was completely the other way around. I think that's really where my life took off. That's where I told myself that looking at these type of people who are sick and stuck on a bed for so many years, that's when I started having more gratitude, being thankful, and just some content. You start being content with your life, and that satisfaction.
Literally took control of your life now at this point.
Yes, that's when I told myself, wait, I'm not in a horrible situation. Just because I'm working in a tire shop does not mean I'm in a bad situation. So that positivity started kicking in. I think God was testing me. Until I reached that position, God did not let me out of that circle. And I think I was stuck in that tire shop circle for 2.5 years. But the minute I was able to attain inner peace, and I made peace with my situation, and I was like, you know what? I'm happy. Within a few months, I get a call. Randomly, I get a call saying, we're calling you from Airways Aviation Academy in Dubai. Can you come for an interview this afternoon? And this was literally 1 p.m. And they're like, can you reach our office before 4 p.m.? I just rushed, and I was like, can I please, I didn't even have a car. I was like, I asked my tire shop owner, can I borrow your car? And I take his car, and I drove from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. And next thing I know, they wanted me to join the day after. Literally. So I feel like it was God testing me and pushing me, and God wanted me to struggle, but also God wanted me to be happy with it and say, thank God for what I have, even though I felt I did not deserve it. And that's when things changed. And I think, and since then, it's been 9 years. I've been with Airways Aviation Academy. I started off with Airways Aviation Academy in Dubai as an admissions and marketing executive, but then I started working as a ground instructor, and then a few years later, Airways Aviation Academy moved me across different bases in the GCC. I was told to go to Kuwait, and then Oman, and then a few years later, they relocated me to Airways Aviation Academy in Montenegro for 2.5 years. And then since the pandemic, I'm here in Dubai, back again in Airways Aviation, Dubai branch. But while I was in Montenegro, I would constantly visit Airways Aviation Academy in the UK. Sometimes I would be looking in Spain. So literally, I literally worked from across the globe. I've worked in many countries in Europe and Asia and the Middle East right now. And I think it all comes down to that most important lesson, which is you don't have to always expect returns from the same source where you invest your hard work. I mean, we always say, oh, I'm working for this company for 15 hours, but I'm not getting anything back. It's fine. Don't worry. If you're working hard, if that company doesn't pay you, it's fine. It's all being calculated somewhere, and you're going to get the rewards of that effort from some other source. It doesn't necessarily always have to be. I mean, we know a lot of people who would tell you, oh, my boss was so horrible. Oh, he made me work 16 hours and he never paid me. It's fine. It's fine. You are learning something which you'll actually use in your next job, which will actually pay you better. So that's what I think happened with me. And I think, sorry for the long story, but I think that's in a nutshell what I've been doing in the last 15 years.
Actually, that's quite a valid point that you brought up, because that's the scenario everywhere, right? The silent quitting, people being so frustrated with their jobs currently, and for a valid reason too, because there's a lot of stress and there's no work-life balance. People are getting just removed their job from their jobs. So what you're saying is, yes, be calm, stay in control, and just hone your skills. And that mindset shift is very important, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I fully agree with you.
Yeah, that's a good perspective.
Rich,
I
you
feel
were
like
saying
looking
something.
at.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say that's a good perspective to have on life. I call it karma. That's like how I view it. I'm like, you know what? As long as you're doing what's important to you and you're serving others, and you're right, you're not going to necessarily see the ROI for many years, but eventually, if you stick the path and you're consistent about it, I promise you will see results. I think that the older you get, I think you realize it more. So that's a good piece of advice for young people who are probably going through a tough time, like when you were in the tire shop and it felt like it was never going to end, but you're just proof that consistency is everything. And don't give up, because you kept calling every place that you could find, just kept asking, didn't give up. And that's hard. It's hard to do that for 2.5 years.
Yeah. I fully agree with you. A lot of people just give up and say, you know what, okay, I'm not saying that you should accept failure and just say, okay, that's it, I'm going to stay in this position. No. You don't accept failure. You are making peace with failure, but you also have to keep trying and trying and trying. Don't ever give up. Literally, persistence, patience, and passion. These are the 3 P's, Actually, these are the 3 P's to be a pilot, is what my instructor told me. But I think I apply that to most of my, situations in life, and I think they work.
Yeah. Sorry, repeat those.
I think that's a very important skill. Yeah.
Passion,
repeat it,
persistence, please. And patience. My instructor told me about this when I was still a little young student pilot, and he was like, Rizwan, you only need 3 things to be a pilot. And I repeat this in every seminar, in every introduction, orientation days. And passion, persistence, and patience. If you have these 3 qualities and 3 skills, you can actually be a successful pilot. And this is true not just for becoming a pilot, I think in everything.
Entrepreneurship, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Especially talking about being an entrepreneur, right? I think it has to be passion. If you don't have the kind of passion that doesn't let you sleep, or how a very famous person, one of our late presidents in India, used to famously quote, I may not be able to quote it very well, but he used to say something along the lines, if it's the kind of dream that doesn't let you sleep, that's the right time for dream, or something like that, right? So Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam used to say, I think that's what I tell my students as well. If aviation is the kind of dream that doesn't let you sleep, welcome to the world of aviation.
That's very valid, actually. That's true for entrepreneurship, because yes, you're kind of lost. You don't even know what you're doing most of the time, because there's absolutely no guidelines, there's no mentorship. And that's what, the 2.5 years that you felt in your tire shop is what most entrepreneurs feel in their starting of their careers as entrepreneurs. And it's very, very difficult to stay in that phase. Yes, it takes time. and you will see the lowest of the lows in that period. But once you're out for good, so you got to stay there.
But also a very important lesson which I reflect upon, or something I would like everybody else to also know. Once you're out of those difficult times, don't get really, don't get confident that I'm fine, I'll never go back to those days, right? You need to constantly have a balance of being optimistic. I'm not saying be negative, be scared, but also tell yourself that if something goes wrong, God can definitely push you back to that same place. So be very careful and always remember those difficult days. Don't forget about those hardships, because they will keep you motivated to keep pushing forward. Like I remember in the first few years of my job with Airways Aviation Academy, I joined in 2014, and in the entire 2014 and 15, I used to be like, Rizwan, I don't want to go back to the tire shop. And I would tell that to myself. And like my boss would be like impressed with me, and he would be like, why are you pushing so much? And I'm like, I work 15 hours in a tire shop. If I can give an extra hour, 8 plus 1, 9 hours, it's nothing. And basically I was a little bit scared that I would have to go back to the tire shop, but I was also taking that in a positive way, being optimistic that I have to do better. I have to be grateful to this company for hiring me and removing me literally out of the tire shop. So I think it's a balance of both, right? You have to be thankful, and you have to also be a little bit careful not to do any mistakes which will push you backwards.
Yeah,
I'm curious to know about what you'd say your skill set is for navigating failure, because you've talked a lot about mindset and perspective and being in the service of others. So you clearly have that part in you just naturally.
Yes.
But are there any other skills that you've developed or honed over time that's helped you overcome obstacles or overcome failures?
Yeah, I think thought about this a lot, right? So I might have answered this question already, but I think the most important skills are, it's very difficult to be patient and being persistent. I think it is more than a quality. I think it's more of a skill which you can develop. The reason I say it's a skill, because some people say, "Oh, I'm not a patient person, so that's it. I'm not a patient." No. You can work on it. Just because you're not a patient person does not mean that you give up and say, "That's how I am. I'm a hot mess." The new trend these days on Instagram. "Oh, I'm a hot mess. Just deal with me the way I am." No, that's not how it is, right? So I think the most important skill which helped me get over is I wasn't a patient person. I wasn't the kind of person who would be happy and satisfied with whatever life throws at you. I was very impatient. But then it was a skill I had to develop. I had to get to a point where I was more patient, persistence, right? I had to keep trying. These are skills, I would say, which really helped me develop and overcome the struggles which I went through. Other than that, I think also constantly meeting the right people, socializing, and always trying to find people in your circle and always trying to expand your circle. I think one of the most important things why I was able to get out of my difficult circle of life is probably because I would constantly go out, try to meet people, create contacts, socializing basically. I know some people, it might be quite difficult to do that, but I think, yes, I know an introvert is not going to suddenly become an extrovert, but even if you believe you're an introvert, you have to put some effort and constantly try your best to meet the right type of people. And contacts are everything, right? So knowing the right people, your network is your net worth. So I think that was definitely one of the most important skills I had. Thank God that I had those socializing skills. So I met the right people at the right time.
How did you
remember.
Sorry, Rachel, you were saying
Rachel,
something?
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, do you have any tips for how you built your network? Because I'm a pretty introverted person myself, but I've had to actively work at networking, and I'm pretty good at it now. But like, what helped you find the right people? Were you just doing cold email outreach, literally just calling them, Google? Like, how would you advise someone who has no network right now and wants to break into an industry like you did?
Yeah, so back then what I did was I just went on LinkedIn. I would just literally add everyone with any aviation background. I sent a lot of messages to a lot of people on LinkedIn, which sometimes I think might have been picked up as creepy, but you do what you can, you do what you can.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get messages on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh my God, I've done this. It's so creepy, right? So, okay, you don't take it to that level, but you just do subtle messages. And, also definitely, I think the way I did it was in Abu Dhabi, I basically, back then we didn't have Instagram. This was 2011 and 12. Facebook was big. I looked at a lot of Facebook groups, local communities, aviation enthusiasts, and I even followed a person who was a skateboard guy, but he had posted a lot of things about aviation, and then I spoke to him. I mean, just randomly. I didn't. To be very honest, it's a lot of times just throwing arrows in the dark, hoping for it to see. As long as you're trying, there's no special code or a special cheat code here, right? Just keep trying whatever you can. The way I feel is I would wake up, I would pray to God, help me, guide me, and I would just start doing whatever came to my mind. And sometimes I feel if you just keep trying, you will end up getting a great idea all of a sudden. If you're just not even thinking of doing something to socialize or to meet the right type of people, you're not going to get those ideas. When you start doing 10 wrong things, in the middle of that, you get this eureka moment, like, why did I not think about this before? Boom. So just put yourself in that situation, keep trying, keep contacting people, keep talking to people. I remember in the tire shop, I had a guy who came and I saw a uniform hanging in the back of his car. So I was all like, oh, he's a pilot. So when he came back to pick up his car, I still remember it was a Jeep Wrangler 2009 model, nice and black. And he came back and I was like, hey, I noticed there was a pilot uniform. Anybody in your family a pilot? He's like, oh, I'm an Etihad pilot. I was like, oh, you're from Etihad. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm such and such. And I spoke to him. I took his number. I asked him to connect me to his friends. So it's just something, you keep trying and things will come to you. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm. I strongly believe that if your intention is good and if you keep trying, you'll stumble upon something which will be quite helpful.
Yeah, I think momentum is really important. You just have to keep moving. If you're not moving, you will not achieve anything, but just take some steps. Doesn't matter if they're the wrong steps, just start walking. And I totally agree with what you said about
I would like to quote one of the most, amazing person I know in the world of aviation, my boss, the owner of Airways Aviation, Mr. Romi Hawat. He always says, if you're not walking forward, you're actually going backwards because everybody else is moving forward. And I'm like, wow. So literally, I've heard him say this a couple of times in board of directors meetings and, at different Airways Aviation events. But literally, if you're not moving forward, you're not actually standing where you are. You're actually going backwards because everybody else is going forward. If you apply this logic to every single thing in your life, you know that even if you're heading in the wrong direction, at least you're walking. You don't know if this pathway is going to lead you to something great, but guess what? Just keep walking with a good intention, obviously. You don't just intentionally go in the wrong direction, right?
That's very powerful, actually. Wow, just made me think for a second there. Yeah. Right? Very nice. True. Yeah. And Rizwan, I'm like, your pilot training has really helped you. It has really given you the skills. It's almost like a lot of your experiences today you're able to deal with is because of the training that you had. But I also know you like when you were a very young teenager and you've definitely did not want to fit in the conventional mode, always questioning it, I don't think you were that spiritual then. I'm guessing you were not. Please, you were just a teenager.
True.
So how did you convince yourself that your choices at that point, yes, I need to be a pilot, I'm just going to go register myself? How did that feel like such a right decision at that time? Because everyone else was definitely doing engineering and medicine.
Yeah, I think I was a bit spontaneous. I was always known to be crazy. I think if you ask some of my friends from 12th grade, I had very limited friends. I had like 2 or 3 friends back in my 11th and 12th grade. And I think if you ask them today, I'm still in touch with them and they'll probably tell you that I was crazy. I would take decisions in a very spontaneous way. And I think that kind of helped me.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared I wasn't scared to dream big. I was never scared. You know how they say dare to dream big? I was never scared to dream big. And I think that really helped me. all of a sudden, as I said, I heard about some random guy telling me, why don't you be a pilot? I'm like, oh, done, yeah, let's do it. I go home, boom, boom, boom. Mom, I want to be a pilot, boom. Like literally, when I told my close friends that I've already started the applications, they're all like, what? Like, what do you mean? You wanted to be an aeronautical engineering? You wanted to be an engineer. So I think that's not something I have an answer. I think I was always very spontaneous, and I would love to take risks and jump in. And I mean, what I also did is something I have to tell you was quite risky, right? So my mom, when I go home and I tell her that day on the 4th of June 1990, sorry, not 1990, that was when I was born, 4th of June 2008, when I go back home and I'm like, Mom, I want to be a pilot, right? So she's like, when, where, how much is it going to cost? I don't know. My answers were, I don't know. So the next day morning, obviously I didn't sleep the whole night. I was like looking at flight schools across the globe. I woke up in the morning, I'm like, Mom, I'm going to go to South Africa for pilot training. It's going to be $55,000. My mom's like, oh, you don't have that kind of money, right? So I'm like, yeah. So I started calling banks. I literally called like maybe 50 different banks in India. They all just hung up, said, no, sorry, no loans for pilot training, no educational loans. And I think this is a chapter which I really want to talk about. Anyone else would have given up. I literally made more than 50 phone calls, and I knew for a fact no banks right now are giving pilot training educational loans. But I still went to 15 different banks. I walked into 15 different banks in Bangalore. Literally, I would just show up, dressed really nice. I would carry a file and I would just randomly walk in. Do you guys offer educational loans for pilot training? What? No. And then I think the 15th or the 16th bank actually entertained me. The manager called me in, spoke about it, and then my family semi-funded the training. I had to take 70% of the amount as an educational loan, so my parents were able to fund 30%. So that was quite a weird thing, right? When I now think about it, I'm like an 18-year-old Rizwan walking into 15 banks, knowing very well that more than 50 banks on the phone have turned you down. I think that's persistence, right?
Yeah.
You need to believe in something, and you need to not give up. Just keep trying. Just keep trying. You never know. And I know a lot of people who do that, but they burn out. And then, I'm done. That's where you fail.
Yeah. And it's not normal in India to think about, pilot training. And, especially like when you're being brought up to become a doctor and engineer. So for you to go with that kind of a passion, first you having found that passion so early on and also going for it. It's not like your family funded the whole thing, and you had to go the whole 9 yards to find the money for, to do everything, literally. Most people, 99% of the people would be, no, let's just do what's available here, the resources here, let's make the best use of whatever it is here, we'll see later on, but no, you didn't. You questioned that.
And I think that's what's very important for being an entrepreneur, I believe, taking risks.
Yes.
Literally, like I heard this amazing thing about entrepreneurs, right? They say entrepreneur is someone who jumps from a hilltop and he builds a glider on his way down. Literally, I think you have to take a lot of risks. I think I've reached a position where I'm 32 now and I'm a little bit stable and satisfied. But I think
spiritual,
yeah, definitely that as well. But I think most importantly, I remember the 18-year-old Rizwan who was just ready to jump, take a leap of faith and just go. So for all those entrepreneurs out there who are thinking of quitting their job, just starting this new firm or a new idea they have, I know there's going to be a lot of things which you're going to be scared about, but you have to take that leap of faith. But also back then, I knew I could take risks because I knew I was persistent and passionate. Today, if I find something which I'm passionate about, I would do that again. So back to the most important point. If you have an idea, if you have a business idea, and if you're extremely passionate about it, and you know that you're going to be persistent and patient with it, go ahead. Take that leap of faith. Jump. Don't be scared of failures. Know for a fact that you will fail in your first few steps, but you need to go in with that mindset that even if I fail in the first few steps, I will keep pushing forward.
I love that. I really like your mindset a lot. And before we wrap up, because I know we're like running up on time here. Where can people find you? And like, do you talk about any of this on social media? Sure. Kind of like being persistent and passionate, or is it really just flying stuff, training?
Nah, it's just it's actually something for the first time I've spoken about. I've never spoken about any of these topics. My life, my background. I don't think so. Anyone except my close family members know about this. I've never spoken about these things on any other platform ever. To answer your question, Rachel, you can find me on Instagram, pilot_Rizwan Taj. That's probably the best way to find me. I'm quite active on Instagram. I do have a YouTube page, same Pilot Rizwan Taj. Posted a few videos. I've decoded the Top Gun movie for aviation enthusiasts. I've made a few videos on YouTube. I'm going to be making more videos on YouTube soon, but for now, I'm quite active on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. Pilot Rizwan Taj, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I recently had to make a TikTok. I was so anti-TikTok, but I recently had to make a TikTok because somebody created a fake account under my name and started stealing all my videos from Instagram and posting it. So people out there, if you're watching this, definitely find the real Pilot Rizwan on TikTok and then report the fake Pilot Rizwan. Because when I went on TikTok trying to report the fake Rizwan, it asked me, where's the real Rizwan? So I had to create one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think Instagram and YouTube would be the best place to find me.
Yeah, the flip side of being a celebrity, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I've reached that celebrity status yet, but thank you for acknowledging
putting it out there.
I think
I'm manifesting it for you. I'm manifesting it for you.
So much. Thank you so much.
Rizwan, before we end this, I just want to know, why is it important to talk about failure, and what more do you want to learn from entrepreneurs when you listen to podcasts and when you hear entrepreneurs? What is it that you want to know more?
So first of all, to answer your first question, why is it important to talk about failures? I don't know of anyone who's successful today who had not failed at one point or the other. But not a lot of people talk about the real struggles and the failures, and a lot of people also forget about their failures. You might see a lot of big people who, are quite successful now, and they do talk about how they started off in their mom's garage and all of that, but they don't always tell you of the difficult decisions they had to make, and being persistent and pushing through. And I think everybody will fail. No matter what you do, you will definitely fail, and that's something you need to. You don't have to expect failure, but you have to be prepared for failure with a positive mindset. Today, with the mental health being such a major concern across the globe, a lot of those entrepreneurs who have failed have also gone into crazy depression, right? I know of a few people in my inner circle who tried to do something, could not do it. They had already quit their job, started this business, failed, and went into mental breakdown, and having mental issues now. So I think that's the most important reason why I feel like we all need to be prepared for failure, and failure is something which we need to be okay with. I don't think so the educational system across the globe has done enough to educate the masses to be prepared for a failure. So what if you fail? Yes, you need to raise your kids that it's part and parcel of life, and that's why I believe it's so important to talk about failure, and it's completely normal. And then to answer your second question about what I need to know from entrepreneurs, what I need to know is, how are entrepreneurs these days accessing funding? Like when I had to come up with funding back then for my aviation training, that was different. But now I want to know, that's something which not a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, talk about the funding. Are they, are they getting the funding initially from their inner circle, family and friends, or how do you go out? How do you just have this business proposal, and how do you convince someone to fund you? That's what I want to know more about from these budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah. That's something we should have more on our show. We'll do that. We'll make a note to have people who can talk about funding, because I totally agree. It's like this whole mystery, and especially in the economy right now, it's just completely been turned on its head. So yeah, totally. But yeah, thank you so much. You are very wise.
Thank you so much.
Is what I'll say. Like you have a very good mindset, which I've learned so many things from you, especially what your boss said about if you're not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards. I was like, wow, I did not think about it that way, but you're right.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can steal that for our posts,
Please,
Rachel.
Please. Just give credits to Romy Hawa.
We will.
I guess he'll be happy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shamsiya. First of all, thank you, Shamsiya. I've known you for quite some time now, and it's a delight. It's amazing every time I talk to you. Rachel, it's been amazing talking to you today.
Yes.
I think,
yes, you as well.
I wish you, I think you're an amazing person. Thank you so much for hosting this. Thank you so much
She
for
is.
part of this.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to getting to know you more.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so